In a quiet village nestled by the banks of a wide river, the villagers lived simple lives, tending to their small farms and fishing boats. One day, news spread that a wealthy man had purchased a large tract of land just beyond the village, intending to transform it into a magnificent farm. The villagers, curious and apprehensive, wondered what kind of man he was. The rich man, Mr. Hastings, was known far and wide for his immense wealth and grandeur. He decided to visit his newly acquired land, riding on a fine horse with a group of servants in tow. As they approached the village, they were met with the sight of the river that separated them from the land. The river, though not too wide, was deep and swift, and there was no bridge. As they pondered how to cross, they noticed an old man, Jacob, in a small boat near the shore. The boat was modest, weathered by years of use, and had space for only 2 passengers. Mr. Hastings, eager to reach his new property, signaled for the boatman. "Boatman," Mr. Hastings called out with an air of authority, "take me across the river. I'll pay you handsomely for your trouble." Jacob nodded respectfully and gestured for Mr. Hastings to step into the boat. The servants were left behind, as there was only room for the rich man and the boatman. The 2 men set off across the river, the boat gliding smoothly over the water. As they sailed, Mr. Hastings couldn't resist the urge to flaunt his wealth and status. He looked down at Jacob, whose hands were rough and clothes simple, and began to boast. "Have you ever met a rich man before, old man?" Mr. Hastings asked, his voice dripping with condescension. Jacob shook his head. "No, sir. I haven't had the pleasure." Mr. Hastings smirked. "Have you ever been to the city? Seen the grand buildings, the bustling markets, the fine carriages?" Again Jacob replied, "No, sir. I have never been to the city." "Are you educated?" Mr. Hastings pressed on, his arrogance growing. "Can you read or write?" Jacob lowered his eyes and quietly said, "No, sir. I cannot." Mr. Hastings laughed, a cold, sharp sound that echoed over the water. "What is the good of a life like yours?" he sneered. "No education, no experience of the world. What a wasted existence." Jacob remained silent, focusing on guiding the boat. But Mr. Hastings' words had stung. The old man felt a deep sense of worry and sadness creeping into his heart. Lost in thought, Jacob didn't notice the sharp rocks ahead. Suddenly, the boat struck one of the rocks with a jolt, causing it to crack and water to start seeping in. Panic set in as the boat began to sink. Jacob, realizing the danger, jumped into the river to save himself. He was an excellent swimmer, having spent his entire life on and around the river. Mr. Hastings, however, was not so fortunate. He flailed helplessly in the water, fear gripping him as he struggled to stay afloat. "Help! Help me, please!" Mr. Hastings cried out, his earlier arrogance replaced with sheer terror. Jacob paused, treading water calmly as he looked at the desperate man. Then, with a steady voice, he asked, "What is the use of a life that doesn't know how to swim, sir?" Mr. Hastings, gasping for breath, realized the truth in those words. All his wealth, education, and city experience were useless in this moment of life and death. With his strength fading, he pleaded, "Please forgive me. I was wrong to belittle you. I understand now that everyone has their own strengths and wisdom. Please save me." Seeing the sincerity in Mr. Hastings' plea, Jacob swam back to him. He grabbed the rich man by the arm and guided him to the shore. Exhausted and humbled, Mr. Hastings collapsed on the riverbank, grateful to be alive. Once he caught his breath, Mr. Hastings turned to Jacob and said, "Thank you for saving my life. You've taught me a lesson I will never forget. I was wrong to think that wealth and education make one man better than another. You have a strength I do not, and for that I respect you."
Please like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.